Ciao, guys. Welcome back to the ARTFUL Podcast. It's Matteo, your host. And before we go on with the new episode, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, support the channel like that. It's really important. And no further ado, let's go on with the show. Are you in the studio or just at home?
No, just at home. Yeah, I just got home from one job and then I'm going to another job here in a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we just jump into it and then Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's good.
Wonderful. So in this new episode of the Artful Podcast, guys, we are joined by April. She's calling from Indiana, and she's gonna talk about her practice and portrait. Please, April, give a little bit of your background to the people so they understand a little bit where you're from.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have much of a background. I'm new to, painting and to sharing my painting. I do mostly portraits, figurative work, expressive work, and I've just been experimenting with that for the last not quite 2 years, a little over a year.
Nice. So, what did you get you into painting from not doing it to like in 1 year producing like portraits and have like even your Instagram pretty active? What did you get you into painting?
Yeah, it really started for me during, all the changes that happened with COVID as the catalyst. All our lives really changed. And mine did as well. Lots of life changes and then lots of, time at home, of course.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And I watched a video of someone doing portrait work, and it just kind of clicked like, hey, I wanted to do a portrait of one of my children. So I started with that, but I did it in kind of a stylized way, not trying to be really realistic. And I figured some things out along the way. So then I just kept experimenting. And then at some point in time started to share that online, just kind of my journey learning.
Nice. It's I feel like it's a lot of the artists that I interview. Some of them they have some studies on like on their shoulder, like they've been practicing for a while, but they didn't really took paintings or whatever it is seriously. And because of the pandemic, a lot of people did just, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, I'm gonna try, and whatever happens happens. It's actually quite funny. It's one of the reasons I started the podcast. It's because I was at home and I knew all these artists, and I did not have that community with me anymore because everybody was at home. And I was like, okay, that's what I listen to. I love podcasting anyway in general. So, and I always wanted to try and see if I could do it. And yeah, that's why I started the podcast. It's the same reason why you start doing your art. It just changed. It convinced a lot of people to just try it, and why not?
Yep.
Part of obviously the bad side of COVID, but it was pretty good for a lot of people to just have the courage to try it. And at the end of the day, it's only one. We are here for only one life, so it's good to try it.
Exactly. A catalyst to try something new, and also new ways to build community. You're building a community through a podcast and through sharing my art. I'm building a community with people that I want to build a community with. In a new and a different way. So it's not just the people around me day to day, but people all over the world.
Yeah, especially exactly. You're from Indiana. You have completely different background and way of thinking, and I interview all these people from all different places. And especially for artists, I think it's really important to kind of have a place where go and have this quite, like, I don't want to do anything too sophisticate, anything too snobby, and I want to have like a really easy, nice conversation with artists and the
Mm-hmm.
reason why they're doing art without being too snobby, because there is a lot of stuff out there for art, but sometimes people can get a little bit trough because it sounds and it looks like it's too pretentious. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I wanted to create something like that, and that's why I'm doing this podcast in this way. Yeah, I found people online and that I'm interesting to, and I interview them, like your portrait and your art in general. It's fantastic. I really enjoy
Thank you.
looking through your Instagram. And let talk about a little bit of your hands-on. How do you start your paintings? How do you decide when it's finished, and what are your thoughts between all these phases?
Well, I start just really inside of me, inside of my thoughts, inside of my feelings, because I want work to be expressive.
Hmm.
Where someone without any education in art, without any of the pretentious stuff, can just connect in an instant with some kind of emotion. I'm inspired by expressive artists, and so it starts there with just processing my own emotions, my feelings, my thoughts. And certainly, during COVID and all the life changes that came through that, there's a lot
Yeah.
to process.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it begins, just inside internally. I do use reference photos. I don't just come up with something out of my head. So I'll start
Mm.
with a reference photo, and usually build something up with acrylic paint, but I'll use other mediums in there too. Um, get the portrait down, and then add elements. I'm not going for realism,
Mm.
certainly, but adding elements to get those feelings across, those things that we don't have words for, but I can hopefully try to express through painting.
Mm. That sounds really interesting. Um, when do you decide? Because obviously, if it's like an expression of yourself, how do you
Mhm.
decide when it's finished? When you decide it's that's it, I'm happy with this.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't. I never seem to get to a point where I feel like, oh yes,
Hmm.
it's finished. I mean, certainly sometimes pieces are purchased and then they're out of my studio and out of my hands and I can't mess with them anymore. But I've displayed a piece in a show, and then after it's, taken down and come back home, I rework it. So I
Hmm.
don't know that I'm ever done.
Yeah, that's the always the battle inside that we have. It's just a little bit more to it, and it never ends. Um,
Yeah, and I change over time. My thoughts change, and so the way I look at, one of my own works will change over time. And so I might take a piece that I thought what I was pretty much finished with, and then realize, no, I'm not
yeah,
finished.
yeah. I was looking at your paintings, and something that comes up. People will see some picture through the interview, so they have an idea what we're talking about. Um, I saw there's a lot of like use of color, and it feels like it's something really important for you.
Hmm.
And um, do you want to a little bit talk about colors and what's your decision
Sure.
on, and how do you decide what to use?
I have a really limited palette. I watch other artists and all their,
Hmm.
their color blending and mixing and large palette. And I really keep it pretty simple when I
Okay.
paint. I have, the same few colors that I keep going to the art store and buying the same colors again and again. A palette that's pretty much the primaries.
Mm,
And I start with those. I like colors where I can get some energy between them. Certainly some blues and red. That's something I gravitate to and fall back to again and again, because there's a lot of energy that can come when you put those two colors together.
I see.
And so just playing off, how much energy I can get, how much I can amp it up with the relationship between colors, but keeping
Mm.
it overall pretty simple. And you'll see the same colors again and again in my palettes, and it's pretty much the primaries and some green.
I see. It's a lot. There is a lot of people that decide to they rather keep it simple than overdo it with like all these different shades. And I think it's um something that I do in general as well. I don't really go over I do a lot of mixing, to be honest, because
Hmm.
I do a lot of like I try to. It's more because I think a difference from your kind of portrait. It's I do more realistic kind of portrait, so it goes a little bit more on the shading side, and I need more of variety of colors and
Yeah.
but the colors that I use to mix all the other colors, it's always the same kind of primary colors that they give me that color palette that I use. And yeah, it's a lot of artists they keep it simple. They rather keep it simple than just have all these like different tubes of colors for
Hmm.
different things. Um, and do you use oil or it's acrylic?
No, I use acrylic, which is, also part of
Hmm.
um, the limitations for mixing, especially if you want to go back and revisit part of a painting you've mixed in acrylic. You've got a limited time with
Hmm.
that color, or you're going to have to perfectly mix it again. So uh, that's another thing with acrylic and not mixing much, is I can layer thin layers of the acrylic paint and kind of mix through that, just how the light comes through the different layers.
So you build layers on top of layers and to give them
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
sense of um three-dimensionally. Do you want to keep it flat, or it's not really something that you're thinking about?
I always have the three dimensions in my mind and want to build up those contours with lights and shadow. So yeah, I want that volume in
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, that's that's for sure. It's do you rather when people are like seeing your stuff and your artworks, do you rather explain what, because you said it's a really it feels like it's really personal, attached to your paintings. It's because it comes from emotion, so it's a personal feeling that you have that you try to express on canvas. Do you does it bother you like explaining your artwork, or it's something that you want to leave to the audience and that's what you prefer?
I feel like I've been successful with a piece if I can just leave it to the audience and someone can look
Mm,
at it and connect to it. And when I've talked to people and they say, "Hey, I've connected to this one," or "I keep looking at this one," that makes me feel like that's a piece that can speak for itself and that is a successful piece. If somebody can see something in it that resonates with them, I think it's successful. I
that's
don't
yeah.
mind explaining, what was going on when I painted it, but I think the painting is really a tool to say more than what words can.
Yeah, if it feels like for you there is the attachment that somebody can have to the painting, it's more important than me try to in a way sell it to you and make you
Yeah.
feel the connection.
Yeah, if
So
they can connect it to their own way through, something in their own experience or what they're feeling, then it becomes theirs.
yeah,
And I think that's a powerful thing of art that can transcend between people and connect people. It doesn't have to be the exact same feeling or thought or idea. Just if something clicks and connects with them, then
yeah.
we're connected.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Sorry, I did turn off my camera just because
Yeah.
it's getting like crazy and it's not working for whatever reason. And yeah, it feels like it's more distracting if I just keep going up and down. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
I will try to fix it while we're talking. Anyway, talking about so you don't have any background for like school and it's everything that you learn it's through online or it's self-taught or you have some friends that
Yeah.
explain stuff to you.
Self-taught, experimenting, and my mom, she has a degree in art. She was an art history
Mm,
major, and has her bachelor's in art history. So certainly, art history was part of growing up, learning about artists and different styles and thinking about art, was part of growing up. But instruction on how to do something,
mm,
that's more experimentation and
yeah,
recent experimentation.
that's do you think do you think do you need let's say a school of some sort of like like formal conventional learning, or do you think that's you can do it, you can go wherever you want with your art because you don't have that conventional um like teaching behind.
That's something I think about and I'm curious about.
Mm,
I know it from my experience, and I know what I can communicate from the perspective of an untrained artist. But what does training, allow a person to get to and to express? It's interesting to think about because
mm,
when you're not trained, of course, you don't have a paradigm that you're working within and convention that you're working within. You're just experimenting, and I think there's something really great about
yeah.
that. But also, your skill set's going to be limited,
Mm,
and I can feel places where I wonder. I see these artists. I'm like, ooh, that temperature they're getting into their colors with their skin colors, and how do they do it? Trying to figure all that stuff out on your own. It's just, you could experiment for a really long time and not get there. So I think there's certainly value, um, from both, and I'm curious about, um,
I see.
what more you could bring to the table.
Yeah, it's I'm curious because I'm kind of in the middle here because most of my actual skills that I learned I did learn by myself before getting into school, and
Mm-hmm.
school because I did university pretty late when I decided to do this as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
um so I did have most of my skills already there, but obviously with university they refine more what I did. But I did ask because I think it's um when you have this teaching behind and you have all these professor that did say stuff to you and it kind of like stacks to you with you when you're painting and um
Yeah.
you have that structure. It's I feel sometimes it's pretty difficult for me to jump out that structure and explore more what I can do with just try and do it. So yeah, I'm pretty curious when I found artists that they have no teaching behind, no academic behind that they teach them. And yeah, I'm really fascinated by your way of expressing your feelings and your through your art without having any um yeah teaching behind that's that will push you in a way or in another. But
yeah, I think even as an untrained artist, though, I certainly can get a voice in the back of my head like, oh, it needs to be better in this way. It needs to, when you did this piece in the past, you were able to achieve this. We've got to replicate that or something, and getting away from that loose experimentation. But the pieces that I've come up with that I feel really good about were when I wasn't caring or thinking, I was just pouring it out and being really expressive and experimenting. And sometimes that turns out really effective, but it's hard to get yourself in that headspace to be really free.
yeah, obviously, yeah, because there is life in the middle between.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's tricky to let go and just really experiment and see where it takes you. But I think there's growth in that when you can get yourself to do it.
yeah, that's for sure. It's really impressive for what you do, and the way you're doing it. And it's I'm definitely like impressed by, especially if you don't have any school behind that have pushed you in a way. Do you think you will explore anything else than paintings, or it's what you found and what you love to do, so you're just gonna carry on and stick with painting?
Well, my occupation is I'm a sonographer. That's, I went to school for psychology and then for imaging. So my job, my work, and my passion is doing sonography or ultrasounds for people and making images that way. And as far as art and painting, it's something that to me I feel like is a part of processing thoughts, processing emotions, and connecting with others when I share that. So, I feel like art happens when I need it to happen. And
I
sometimes I
like that.
need art to happen more than other times. And then I have my as far as my work, my valuable, fulfilling work is sonography and ultrasound, and art is a means of communication.
I like that. I like that. Um it's really at the end of the day, that's what it is. We want to try to just communicate with no
Yeah.
words. It's a language, as they said. Painting is a language, and it's really important for artists to kind of like remind that like to themselves, because especially if it's your job. For example, me, it's I get caught up with like, oh, I need to do exhibition, I need to do this. It's with the business
Yeah.
is business aspect of being an artist.
You have to have an art mind and a business mind.
Yeah, that's it's really tricky to kind of stick and be, oh, I need to do this because I need to express myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a battle that happens a lot in like when you're a professional artist. And but at the end of the day, it's what you said. It's a communication, it's a language, and we just try to express ourselves in that way. But with this beautiful thought, April, thank you very much to be part of the podcast. It was really nice.
Yeah, very cool to be a part of it.
Cool, nice, short
There you
interview.
are.
Yeah, I just wanna say hi to bye to you in person. I'm sorry about the camera. I have no idea what's happening. And yeah, thank you very much, April, to
thank
be
you.
part of the podcast. And I have a great day, and keep on going your great work.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.